Revealed, heartwarming story of a husband's incredible revenge after discovering his wife's secret donations. In the sleepy town of Maplewood, the sun dipped low, casting a golden hue over the sidewalks as Tom, a devoted husband and mechanic, toiled late into the night. He cherished the fleeting moments with his wife, Mary, and their sparkly-eyed daughter, Lily, whose laughter echoed like music in his heart. Every greasy handprint on his overalls told a story of hard work, but recent whispers of a promotion had ignited hope in Tom's chest, a chance to finally build the future he envisioned for his family. But just as the glimmer of success flickered, his world shuddered. While organizing the attic, Tom discovered stacks of receipts labeled nonprofit donations. Confusion tightened his chest as he pieced together a hidden truth: Mary had been donating their savings to an organization purportedly helping struggling families in Maplewood. A noble cause, one would think, until he learned that the developer backing it all was a shady character profiting from their neighborhood's plight. Emotions swirled like a summer storm, and tension crackled through their small home. Tom confronted Mary, fury igniting in his heart. "Why? Why would you risk our future?" he demanded, feeling like a betrayed gladiator in a dusty arena. Her eyes brimmed with love and sorrow. "This isn't just money, Tom. It's about fighting the very inequality we once faced," she pleaded, her voice a whisper yet heavy with conviction. As she spoke, images of their early struggles flooded his mind, days spent in shabby apartments, scraping by on meager wages. His heart clenched. Could he really let anger cloud his judgment, now that their lives were finally taking a turn for the better? Nearby, the community fundraiser buzzed with laughter, the scent of potato salad wafted through the air, children shrieked in delight, and families connected under the summer sun. As the backdrop of Maplewood thrived, Tom wrestled with a moral fork in the road: fight against Mary or join forces for a collective cause. As anger teetered on the edge of his sanity, fate crashed into his reality. A devastating fire erupted, engulfing a housing complex just blocks away, leaving dozens of families homeless and vulnerable. The urgency to act hung palpable in the air. Mary, her heart steadfast, sprang into action. "We need to help them, Tom," she exclaimed, eyes gleaming with determination. In that instant, clarity washed over Tom. He grasped the weight of Mary's sacrifice and his own fear of inadequacy. Would he embrace the chance to unite with her against the injustice? Or would he let personal hurt overshadow the spirit of love, community, and hope? As they prepared to dive headfirst into aiding their neighbors, Tom felt a shift inside, a deeper understanding of Mary's intentions, intertwined with their own struggles. He wanted to believe in the goodness of their cause, yet dark doubts lingered. Just as they seemed ready to embrace unity, a familiar face from the past stepped forward, a grin twisted with secrets about the nonprofit's true motives. Caught between betrayal and love, Tom pondered, was true justice achievable, or had they accidentally woven themselves deeper into a web of deception? The air around them felt thick with tension, a palpable weight as Tom stood at the edge of a decision that could alter their lives forever. The shadows deepened as the sun sank lower, painting the sky in hues of orange and crimson, mirroring the storm brewing within him. "Tom," Mary urged, her voice breaking through his racing thoughts. "We can't sit back. Those families need us." She reached out, placing a hand on his arm. The warmth of her touch was a reminder of the love they fought to protect. But doubt still lingered like a shadow, threatening to cloud his heart. "We need to understand what we're getting into," he replied, trying to keep his composure. "What if that organization, what if they're not what they seem?" Her eyes locked onto his, unwavering. "I know it's scary. But think about the families we've met, the kids we've seen at school. We can't just turn our backs because of one bad apple." The fire in her words kindled something within him. Still, the face of his past lingered, a ghost waiting to rear its head. As if summoned by his thoughts, Jake, the old friend turned rival, strolled forward from the murmur of the crowd. A sly grin spread across his face, one that Tom had not missed in years. "Well, if it isn't the mighty Tom and his noble crusade," Jake smirked, the edge of contempt lacing his tone. "I hear you're helping with the donations. Hope you're ready to play in the big leagues. Tom clenched his fists at his sides, memories of their rivalry flashing before him. What do you want, Jake? He asked, voice steady but with underlying rage. Just here to lend a hand, Jake said mockingly, shifting his weight to the side. After all, with that funding you've been throwing around, it's good to know who's really behind the scenes. That organization. They've got a few dirty little secrets. Mary stepped forward, unafraid. What are you talking about? Let's just say the non-profit isn't helping everyone as much as they like to claim, Jake said, his smile stretching wider. I can show you if you're interested, but it'll take a bit of digging. He leaned in closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. The developer. He's got connections, and they run deeper than you think. Tom's stomach twisted. The mixture of rage at Jake and the creeping unease about the non-profit clawed at his insides. Was everything they believed in, everything they hoped for, built on a shaky foundation? Mary turned toward him, searching his eyes. We can't let him get to us, Tom. We have to stay focused. Stay focused? He echoed, feeling the gravity of their situation weighing heavily on his chest. You're asking me to ignore the signs telling us that maybe this isn't the right path. Or maybe we're meant to expose the truth. Her voice trembled with emotion. We can't abandon those families who've already lost so much. Determined, Tom felt the frustration transform into resolve. Then let us expose it, he declared, steeling himself. But we need to be careful. One wrong move could collapse everything. As they turned back to the vibrant scene of families coming together, the laughter of children filled the air, warm yet distant. The weight of impending choices taunted Tom. Suddenly, he felt a mixture of hope and dread, a push and pull that left him with questions. Would the journey ahead unite them in a new fight for justice, or would it fracture the bonds of love they worked so hard to build? With their futures hanging in the balance, one thing was for sure, someone was hiding the truth, and they were about to uncover secrets that could change everything. Yet as they prepared for the struggle ahead, an ominous text buzzed on Tom's phone, sending chills down his spine. Meet me tonight. I have information on the non-profit. You won't want to miss this. Driven by apprehension and loyalty, Tom realized they were on the brink of a confrontation that might unravel their lives completely. The moment of truth was approaching, and he knew they had to be ready for whatever came next. Tom stood in the twilight, the vibrant colors of the sunset dwarfed by the weight of Jake's words. The crowd around him, sharing laughter and joy, felt worlds away from the turmoil swirling within him. Mary's gaze was steady, but he could see the tension in her brow. It was as if the air had thickened further, charged with unspoken fears and the promise of conflict. Tom, we can't let what Jake said get to us, Mary urged, taking a step closer. Let us just focus on what we need to do. We can't allow doubt to creep in now. Tom nodded, but the unease gnawed at him. You heard what he said. What if there is some truth to it? What if we're backing the wrong horse? She shook her head, frustration flaring. You're just giving him power, Tom. We know why we're doing this. For the families. For the kids. We can't let anyone distract us. He felt the pulse of her belief, steady and unwavering. It stabilized him for a moment, but as he glanced back at Jake, shadows twisted in the corners of his mind. Their history was tangled with rivalry and competition, and deep down, Tom wondered if Jake was playing a game, or if perhaps, he was genuinely offering a warning from the shadows. Meet me tonight, the message still echoed in his head. The thrill of connection warred with the fear of what lay ahead. He wanted to scream, to shake off the uncertainty, to banish the darkness closing in. Let us meet the others, he said finally, desire for movement tugging at him. We need to get our thoughts together. As they walked through the crowd, the sounds of music faded into the background. Children darted past, their laughter bright and innocent. For a brief moment, Tom flashed back to simpler times, the days when life was a series of sunsets like this, filled with dreams and hopes unfettered by the weight of responsibility. But even in those memories, the ghosts of uncertainty crept in. At the edge of the gathering, they found their small team meeting under the dim glow of light strung between trees. Each face held its own questions, some weary, others hopeful. As Tom stepped into the circle, he felt the gravity of their gaze. He could see it reflected in Mary's eyes, determination married with concern. "All right, everyone," he began, his voice firm. "We have work to do. Something isn't right about this non-profit we're backing, and we need to uncover the truth." A murmur of agreement rippled through the group. "What do we know?" asked Greg, a tech-savvy member with sharp eyes. Tom took a breath, the fiery passion rising within him, pushing out the shadows of doubt. "Jake thinks they're hiding something big. I've got a meeting tonight that might shed some light, but we need to be prepared for anything." Mary leaned closer, her voice barely above a whisper. "Are you sure about this? Meeting him could be dangerous." He locked eyes with her, the warmth of her trust igniting his resolve. "I have to know, Mary. We have to know." The group began strategizing, their voices echoing resolve, each word drawing them closer together. In the background, the laughter of children faded, replaced by a growing tension that settled in his stomach. As their discussions turned to logistics and safety, Tom's mind drifted. He couldn't shake the nervousness prickling at his skin. What would Jake reveal? Would it tear apart everything they had worked for, or could it be the key to saving the families they cared for? Then another text chimed in, causing chills to run down his spine. "Just remember, if you dig too deep, some truths will come at a price." The room grew silent, each face reflecting the same alarm. Tom could feel the weight of the moment as he turned to Mary. "What do you think he means by that?" She shook her head, fear and determination mingling in her eyes. "Whatever it is, we need to face it together." As they exchanged glances, a shared understanding settled between them. They were on the brink of something big. But as the sun disappeared entirely, leaving a moonlit haze, one question lingered in Tom's mind: what was the price of the truth they were about to uncover? He felt like they were standing on the edge of a cliff, ready to jump into the unknown. And somewhere beneath it all, there was a feeling that the truth wasn't just waiting to be uncovered, it was also waiting to strike. The air felt dense as Tom stepped outside, leaving the glow of the meeting behind him. He inhaled deeply, trying to shake off the anxiety that had gripped him since Jake's ominous text. The night wrapped around him, cool and quiet, each sound amplified: the rustle of leaves, a distant bark, the muffled laughter from the gathering behind. "Are you sure you're ready for this?" Mary's voice cut through the stillness. She had followed him outside. The concern in her eyes sparked a mix of warmth and fear. He managed a half smile, though it didn't reach his eyes. "I have to be. For all of us. Just promise me you'll be careful." Her grip tightened on his arm, grounding him amid the turmoil. For a moment, he wished he could take her with him, shield her from whatever lay ahead. But deep inside, he knew this battle was his to fight. "Hey," he said, lifting her chin gently with his fingers, searching her face. "Whatever happens, we'll face it together. Just like we always have." She nodded slowly, but the uncertainty in her eyes lingered. Just come back. Please." The weight of her request settled in his chest. With a nod, he turned away, pushing off into the night. The streets were eerily quiet as he made his way to the rendezvous point. Each footfall echoed in the stillness. An old park, half-lit under the scattered street lamps, would be their meeting ground. Memories flickered through his mind: days spent here running with friends, nights of laughter, the first time he kissed Mary under this very tree. But this time, the atmosphere felt charged, the air thick with the heaviness of uncertainty. Arriving at the park, he scanned the area. Shadows danced under the trees, and the chill in the air rushed through him. He pulled his jacket tighter, his heart racing at the thought of what Jake might have to say. Would it change everything? A figure emerged from the darkness, casual but poised. It was Jake. The faint glow from a nearby lamp illuminated his face, revealing a hint of something not just defiance, but also an urgency. "Thanks for coming," Jake said, his tone flat yet heavy with underlying tension. "Let us get this over with," Tom replied, crossing his arms. The bravado was an act, masking the worry gnawing at him. "All right, straight to it." Jake stepped closer, lowering his voice. "You think you're helping your cause, but someone has been pulling the strings on that nonprofit. They're deeper into something ugly than you realize. Why should I trust you?" Tom challenged, but his voice had a tremor. Part of him wanted to believe Jake, but trust didn't come easy, especially not when the stakes were so high. "Because I've seen it firsthand," Jake said, his voice dropping even lower. "People are gonna get hurt if you don't listen." Tom wrestled with the caution against Jake's compelling urgency. He stepped back, trying to piece together this puzzle. "What are you actually saying?" Jake hesitated, then spoke with a raw honesty. "They're embezzling funds. Kids' lives are at stake. They're hiding it, and if you keep pushing, you're putting a target on your back." Tom felt as if the ground had fallen away beneath him. A target on his back. The gravity of the moment sank in, heavy like lead. Was this the price of truth that Jake had warned him about? Before he could respond, a sound thudding footsteps, marching toward them broke the tense silence. The blood drained from Tom's face as he turned, realization grasping him like a vice. "We need to go. Now." But it was too late. The shadows merged, and figures emerged, blocking their escape. Tom's heart raced, terror and adrenaline clashing within him. "Let us see how far you'll push, Tom," Jake sneered, backing away, disappointment flaring in his eyes. Trapped in a web of choices and consequences, Tom braced himself as the figures advanced. Would he stand his ground for the truth, or would fear send him retreating into the darkness? As the scene unfolded, one burning question echoed in his mind: what would he sacrifice to protect those he loved? The stakes had never felt higher. Tom's heartbeat hummed in his ears as the figures closed in, their intentions unreadable in the dim light. Shadows shifted and morphed, heightening his senses. He turned to Jake, hoping for guidance or at least some reassurance. But Jake stood there, uncharacteristically pale and backing away, a curling knot of anger and fear churning deep in Tom's gut. "Are you with me or not?" Tom shot back, the edge of panic creeping into his voice. "What do you think?" Jake replied, his bravado fading into something more self-preserving. "They don't care about the truth, Tom. You need to rethink this. You're not ready for this fight. You think I wanted any of this?" Tom's words burst forth, tinged with desperation. "I'm not running. Not when kids are involved, not when people are being hurt." As the strangers advanced, their faces began to emerge from the darkness, the harsh truths of their intentions reflected in moonlit eyes. Tom ducked as one lunged forward, grabbing blindly at him. He scrambled to the side, adrenaline surging through him. Fear curled in the corners of his mind, but Tom shoved it down. He had to stand strong. "Go!" Tom yelled at Jake, urging him to escape as he stepped forward, becoming the shield. "Tom, don't be a fool!" Jake shouted back, panic now rising in his voice. But Tom was already moving, his instincts guiding him to fight back. One of the attackers stepped closer, an intimidating figure dressed in dark jeans and a hoodie, voice grating as he spoke. "What's your problem? You're poking the bear. You think we're going to let you ruin everything?" "I won't to let you hurt anyone else," Tom challenged, his own words surprising him. The figure chuckled coldly. "You really think you're some kind of hero? You're just a pawn. You don't know what you're getting into." Tom's resolve hardened, and with sudden clarity, he shifted his weight, readying himself. "Maybe I don't know everything, but I know enough to stand up for what's right." Before Tom could react, the group surged forward, attempting to overwhelm him. He swung out, adrenaline fueling his movements, connecting with a firm punch that sent one of the attackers staggering back. Breathless, he focused on keeping his footing. Each blow felt like a revelation he could fight for something greater. The others hesitated, surprised by his sudden bravery. Then a sharp whistle sliced through the air. Tom's heart dropped. From behind, more figures emerged, each one cloaked in authority. The sudden light of flashlights filled the park, illuminating the tension. Tom's instinct churned as he spun to face this new threat. "Police!" A voice commanded, sending the group of attackers scattering into the shadows. Relief washed over him like a wave, but the elation was short-lived. The sound of commotion and urgency filled his ears as uniforms converged. Jake stepped up beside Tom, panting heavily. "What the hell just happened?" "They were going to attack us," Tom replied, trying to catch his breath. "I was trying to protect." "We need to get out of here," Jake interrupted, eyes wide as the gravity of their predicament settled in. "This isn't over. You've made enemies now. Those guys aren't just gonna disappear." Tom nodded, unease clawing at him. The fight wasn't just about him anymore. It was bigger, darker, more complicated than he had anticipated. "Where do we even go from here?" he asked, glancing around as chaos began to unfold with the police swarming the area. Jake hesitated, locking eyes with Tom, a deeper understanding passing between them. "We go back, to the beginning. We find out who is behind this and we expose them together." A chill ran down Tom's spine, the weight of their next steps hanging heavily in the air. He felt an urgency rising in him, fueled by his desire to protect the ones he loved and uphold the truth. But one question lingered in his mind as they turned to leave the park, shadows fading behind them. What if the truth cost them everything? As darkness enveloped them, Tom knew the fight had only just begun. The moon hung high, a silent witness to the chaos that had just unfolded. Tom and Jake hurried through the park, hearts pounding, their breaths mingling with the late-night chill. The shadows seemed to stretch and tug at them, whispering doubts and fears. "Do you really think we can find out who's behind all this?" Jake asked, his voice low but filled with uncertainty. Tom glanced at him, his frustration bubbling beneath the surface. "We have to try, Jake. It's not just about us anymore. Those kids, they need us." "Yeah, but what if we get in over our heads?" Jake's brows knitted together in concern. "Those guys clearly have something to lose. They won't hesitate to come after us." Tom felt that knot in his stomach tighten further. He understood Jake's fears, but fear couldn't rule them now. Each step felt heavier, yet there was also a rush, a feeling that moments like this could change everything. He took a deep breath, determined to steady himself. "If we keep running, we'll let them win. We can't let them silence us." As they reached the edge of the park, the streets ahead were dull and quiet, almost eerie after the previous chaos. A flickering streetlight cast sporadic glimmers on cracked pavement, giving the scene a surreal quality. Tom felt disoriented but knew he wouldn't let the fear of those attackers consume him. There was one place left they could go, the community center. It had been a hub of information and support during the earlier years, a spot where his friends gathered. "Let us go there," he suggested. "We'll find someone who knows something." Jake nodded his agreement, though Tom could see he still wrestled with trepidation. They made their way down the unlit street, the cool night air pressing against their skin. It felt like they were on the cusp of something enormous, a confrontation that might finally start to piece together the fractured puzzle before them. When they reached the community center, the old brick building stood resilient against the night. Tom pushed open the creaky door, the familiar scent of wood polish and fading paint filling his lungs. The lobby was empty, but the faint sound of voices drifted from the back room. "Hello." Tom's voice echoed as they stepped inside. A few heads turned, expressions filled with curiosity and concern. Among them was Sarah, the community organizer. She was always someone people turned to for support, and Tom felt a glimmer of hope at her presence. Tom. Jake. Sarah rushed over, her expression shifting from surprise to worry. What happened? You look like you've run a marathon. Without missing a beat, Tom recounted their encounter in the park, his voice trembling with the weight of urgency. We think there is something bigger happening here, something dangerous. We need information. Do you know anything about those guys? Sarah's face paled as Tom finished. I've heard whispers, but I didn't want to scare anyone. If they're involved, it's bad news. These people, they're not just thugs. They have connections. Influence. What do you mean? Jake asked, anxiety lacing his voice. There's a development plan in play. A lot of money at stake. Kids' welfare doesn't matter to them. If they've threatened you, it's likely because you're too close to exposing them, she said, voice tense with worry. Tom's heart raced. This wasn't just about standing up against bullies anymore. It was about taking a stand for the community, for the kids whose futures hung in the balance. Then we need to act, Tom declared, fire igniting in his chest. We have to gather evidence, bring this to light. We can't let them destroy everything. As Tom's resolve solidified, Sarah's eyes sparkled with determination. Count me in. You're not alone in this. But just as they began hatching a plan, the sudden sound of shattering glass echoed through the building, sending all their hearts into a tailspin. Instinctively, the trio exchanged worried glances. What the hell was that? Jake whispered, fear creeping back into his tone. Tom's stomach churned. Had their fight just crossed a dangerous line? They weren't prepared for what might come next, but the truth had to come out. He took a deep breath, summoning every ounce of courage he could muster. We have to check it out. Together. But as they reached for the door, fresh footsteps thundered outside. Was it another threat, or were they finally taking a stand against a powerful conspiracy? A voice in the dark called to them, and in that moment, Tom felt the weight of fate hovering, teetering on the brink of something that could change their lives forever. What awaited them on the other side? The door creaked ominously as Tom pushed it open, a sliver of dread creeping beneath his skin. The night enveloped them in darkness, and the loud footsteps echoed like thunder against the silence of the community center. Hearts racing, they were met with the cold reality that trouble was no longer just a whisper, it was a roar. Stay behind me, Tom hissed, positioning himself between Jake and Sarah as they crept forward. His palms were slick with sweat, and he could feel his breath quickening, each exhale trembling slightly. Poking their heads around a corner, the trio spotted three figures silhouetted against the moonlight just outside the parking lot. They weren't just ordinary thugs, these were men in tailored suits, their postures rigid and threatening. It was fear incarnate, emanating from their very presence. What are they doing here? Jake whispered, his voice barely audible above the pounding of Tom's heart. Probably looking for us, Sarah replied, her voice tinged with a mix of anxiety and determination. We can't let them find us here. Tom felt a surge of anger surge through him. These were not just faceless threats, they were people who had the power to destroy everything he cared about. We won't back down. Not now. Not ever, he muttered, sheer conviction pushing him forward. The sound of shattering glass echoed in his mind again, sparking a newfound urgency. No longer were they just gathering evidence, it was about confronting the truth, and he felt a fire kindling inside him. They had already crossed a line, and the other side wasn't as far away as it seemed. Let's create a distraction, Tom suggested, a plan forming. I'll go out the back. You two find a safe spot to hide. No way. We're in this together, Jake retorted, his eyes wide. We're not splitting up. This is about teamwork. Tom hesitated, sensing the weight of his friend's resolve. The last thing he wanted was to put anyone in danger. But as he looked at Sarah's determined face, he realized they were in this together, not as individuals, but as a united front against the looming darkness. A moment of silence passed as they locked eyes, the trio forming an invisible bond of trust. "All right, then." Together, Tom agreed, feeling the adrenaline course through him. "Just remember to stick to the shadows." They crept toward the open door cautiously, hearts beating in sync as they positioned themselves just out of sight. The footsteps drew closer, boots crunching against the gravel. The tension was palpable, mixing with fear and resolve in an intoxicating cocktail of urgency. Suddenly, one of the figures turned sharply, catching a glimpse of movement. "Hey! Over there!" he shouted. Tom's gut twisted as they bolted into action, adrenaline pushing them forward. They dashed down the side of the building, dodging light and diving behind a row of bushes that offered a thin veil of safety. "Go!" Tom yelled, trying to suppress the surge of fear. They darted toward the back alley, weaving through the shadows, their footsteps muffled by the gravel. As they turned the corner, an alley light flickered on, illuminating their path ahead. Just as they thought they were safe, a heavy hand gripped Tom's shoulder, spinning him around. "Thought you could escape that easily?" The figure's voice was low and menacing, sending a jolt down Tom's spine. "Run!" Tom shouted, breaking free and shoving Jake and Sarah ahead. But as he tore away, he felt the strong grasp tighten around his wrist. "Don't be a hero, kid. You have no idea the trouble you're stirring up," the man growled, eyes glinting with malice. Straining against the grip, Tom's mind raced. This was no longer just about uncovering a conspiracy, it had turned into a full-blown fight for their lives. He needed to find a way to break free and turn the tables on these bullies before they snuffed out the light of hope. Just as he gathered his strength for one last push, a sudden noise from the street halted everything. Sirens. Blinking red lights illuminated the alley, casting everything in an eerie glow. Underneath the shock of the sirens, Tom felt a precarious hope flicker within. But would it be enough to save them from the clutches of darkness? "Move! Now!" he shouted, mustering every ounce of strength as the chase took on a new, frantic energy. What would come next in their fight against a power that sought to silence them? Would help arrive in time, or would they stand alone against overwhelming odds? The alley erupted into chaos as the red and blue lights of the police cars sliced through the darkness, illuminating the scene like an unwelcome spotlight. Tom's heart raced, both from fear and a flicker of hope. He had felt trapped, but maybe now, amidst the sirens and the flashing lights, things could change. With a swift tug, Tom broke free from the man's grip and sprinted forward, Jake and Sarah close behind. "This way!" he shouted, leading them deeper into the alley, driven by instinct as much as by desperation. The sounds of shouting got louder as the suited men turned to face the approaching law enforcement. "Get the hell out of here!" one of the figures barked, frustration mixing with a glimmer of fear in his voice. Tom, keeping low and tight against the wall, darted around an old dumpster that overflowed with litter and memories, while Jake and Sarah followed suit. They hadn't come this far just to be caught now. Their breath came in ragged gasps as they peeked around the corner to see how the confrontation unfurled. The suited thugs were scrambling, looking towards the street. Tom strained to catch every word. "No time for this. We can't get caught," shouted the man who had grabbed him moments ago, a hint of panic threading through his tone. "Just move." Another one yelled as he shoved the others forward, their backs now turned to Tom and his friends. Tom couldn't help but exchange glances with Jake and Sarah. "This is our chance," he breathed, excitement laced with caution. "Let us get out of here, fast." The trio slipped further into the darkness, staying completely silent as they moved. The chaotic scene of the alley now felt distant as they reached the other end, where the mouth of the street awaited them, glowing with the warmth of streetlights. But the respite didn't last long. As they stepped into the light, a voice rang out behind them. "Hey! Stop!" Tom's stomach dropped. He turned to see one of the thugs sprinting toward them, determination etched on his face. Run! He shouted, feeling the adrenaline spike through his veins once more. Panic surged through the group as they instinctively picked up speed. They sprinted down the street, darting in and out of shadows, the sounds of boots following close behind. Are we going to make it? Sarah panted, breath coming in sharp gasps. Yes. Tom replied, though uncertainty lingered in his mind. The sirens were still blaring, but the clash of their own pounding hearts drowned everything else out. They rounded a corner, desperate eyes scanning for any place to hide. There. A narrow gap between two buildings beckoned like salvation. In there. Tom yelled, leading them into the refuge of the alleyway. As they squeezed into the tight space, the darkness enveloped them. The muffled sounds of the pursuit faded just slightly, but their hearts pounded so loud they could almost hear them echoing against the bricks. Each of them pressed against the cool wall, trying to regulate their rapid breathing. What now? Jake whispered, the fear evident in his voice. With a deep breath, Tom tried to think clearly. They had bought themselves a precious moment. We wait. They'll be looking for us, but we know the area better than they do. But as hope began to swell within him, it was interrupted by the sound of footsteps returning. His heart dropped again. What if the sirens hadn't deterred them at all? Just as the tension became suffocating, a car door slammed, followed by voices nearby. They must be here somewhere. We can't let them slip away again. They've got something we need. Tom's mind raced with the implications. What were they looking for? What danger was lingering in the shadows along with them? He glanced at Jake and Sarah, determination sparking in his eyes. This isn't over. We need to find a way to turn the tables on them. There must be something we can do. But what if in their quest for safety they were only setting themselves up for a greater challenge? Would they finally uncover the truth that could save them all or put them in even deeper peril? Tom's thoughts raced as he pressed himself against the cold brick wall, the whispers of the suited men growing nearer. He could see Jake's eyes wide with fear and Sarah biting her lip, trying to suppress the rising panic. He had to think fast. Okay, he murmured, lowering his voice. We need a plan. We can't just stay here. Jake nodded, the determination slowly seeping back into him. But how? We don't know why they're after us. I have an idea. Tom hesitated as something sparked in his mind. He glanced at the narrow alley where they were hiding. There had to be something they could use. He pointed to a stack of old crates stacked against the wall. If we can reach those crates, we might find something we could use as a weapon or a distraction. Sarah's breath quickened again, but there was a glint of hope. What if we throw them? It'll make noise and could lead them away. Exactly, Tom replied, his heart pounding with newfound urgency. But we have to be quiet about it. We'll wait until they're close enough. They huddled together, holding their breath as the footsteps approached. Tom's body tensed, but he felt a flicker of courage. With Jake and Sarah by his side, they might have a shot. Then, just as the men were almost upon them, Tom gave a nod. Now. They scrambled to the crates, pulling them towards the entrance of the alley, trying to make as little noise as possible. Tom's hands were shaking as he balanced the crate on the brink of the gap. He took a deep breath and shoved it forward. The crashing would echoed alarmingly in the stillness. What was that? One of the men shouted, the urgency in his voice now apparent. Let us go. Another urged, and Tom's heart raced. He peeked out to see the suited figures turning their heads, trying to locate the source of the noise. Now, let us move. He whispered, and they bolted deeper into the alley, moving as quickly and quietly as possible. With the thugs now distracted, Tom led them through a series of twists and turns. The streets felt like a maze, every corner potentially leading to an escape or another dead end. Where are we even going? Jake panted, fatigue creeping into his voice. Wherever they're not, Tom replied, though he too felt an inkling of doubt. The fear surged through him. What if they ran into more of those men? They soon found themselves behind a line of parked cars. Tom ducked down, trying to emerge as small as possible. Sarah's face was pale, her eyes darting around nervously. "We'll push through the lot and head towards the main street," he said, trying to sound confident. "If we hit the main road, there'll be people around. They'll have to back off." As they came around the last car, they could see the bright light of the street ahead. But just as they stepped out, a shadow loomed, stepping into their path. "Going somewhere?" A voice sneered, the man standing in the light with a smug smirk. Tom's heart sank. "Run!" he yelled, knowing they had to act fast. But instead of fleeing, something within him snapped. With a fierce determination, he stepped forward. "What do you want from us? We're not going to be your pawns." The man's eyes flickered with surprise, and for a split second, Tom saw a crack in his confident facade. "Just get out of our way," the thug growled. But as Tom stood his ground, the weight of uncertainty pushed down on him. Was he taking the right path? Did they really have the power to defy these men, or was this just a desperate move that could land them back into danger? The answer hung in the air, the choice before them more significant than ever. As they faced the looming figure, a chill ran through Tom. This next moment would either turn their situation around or seal their fate forever. What would he choose? As the thug stood before them, a blend of fear and determination settled deep in Tom's chest. He felt the gathered strength in his voice, the courage bubbling to the surface. "We're not afraid of you," he declared, pushing aside the panic that clung to him. The words echoed out, he needed to believe them. The man laughed coldly, but Tom could sense a tremor in his bravado. "You should be. You have no idea who you're messing with." "Then tell us," Jake interjected, stepping slightly forward. "Is this about the nonprofit? Are you really willing to threaten families for greed?" The thug shifted, uncertainty flickering across his face. But then he regained his fierce composure. "You don't get to ask questions. This isn't your game." With a deep breath, Tom took another step, grounding himself with the warmth of his friends beside him. "It is now. You're hurting people we love. And we're going to stop you." Just then, headlights sliced through the darkness from the street behind, illuminating not only the thug's sneer but revealing the desperate scene unfolding around them. Instinctively, they all turned toward the light, a new wave of hope washing over Tom. "Run!" he yelled as the thug's confidence faltered. It was a chance. He bolted to the side, tugging Jake and Sarah along. They dashed toward the street, their feet pounding against the pavement, adrenaline propelling them forward. As they reached the safety of the main road, the world transformed into a cacophony of sound: honking cars, distant laughter, the reassuring buzz of life. Tom glanced back, searching for any sign of their pursuer, but found nothing. The smugness of that man seemed to vanish into the night, swallowed by the hum of the city's pulse. They had escaped at least for now. Breathing heavily, they slowed down to a jog, hearts still racing. "Did we lose them?" Sarah asked, the color returning to her cheeks as the warmth of the streetlights enveloped them. "I think so," Jake replied, glancing back one last time, but the street was empty, reassuringly calm. "For now, yeah." Pride swelled in Tom as he turned to his friends. But a storm of thoughts raged in his mind. They couldn't stop now, they needed to expose the truth behind the nonprofit while the fire still burned bright within them. "We need to report what we've seen tonight, everything," he urged fervently. "There's no turning back now. We can't just run from this. It's our fight." Jake nodded, determination igniting in his eyes. "Right. We gather everything we know and we take it to the police, the community, whoever will listen." "Absolutely," Sarah agreed with a firm resolution. "If they think they can intimidate us into silence, they're wrong. We'll stand our ground." With their mission set, they huddled together, voices enveloped in whispers of strategy, shifting the momentum from fear to purpose. They pulled out their phones, each tapping furiously, piecing together the clues, the contacts, the evidence. They wouldn't just be shadows in the night, they'd become a voice for their community. As they turned onto a nearby street lined with homes, the comforting glow of welcoming porch lights dotted the landscape. Each beam seemed to mock the weight of darkness they had faced. But there was also determination behind each light, a reminder of the families that depended on their courage. They weren't just fighting for their safety, they were fighting to protect something bigger: their community, their loved ones, their dignity. Arriving at the local police station, anxiety gripped Tom's heart, but he pushed it aside. "This is it," he said, voice steady. "We take back the night." They stepped inside, met with the warm glow of fluorescent lights and the mundane sounds of duty. But underneath, there was a flicker of hope: their power was about to spark a change. As they recounted their story, the officers looked from shock to concerned, disbelief fading into urgency. The night of suspense transformed as their resolve began to move the gears of change. "Every bit of evidence matters," one officer urged, taking notes. "You've done the right thing by coming forward. This situation is more serious than it appears." Tom felt a rush of purpose. They were no longer victims fleeing from shadows. They had become warriors for justice. As the night unfolded, they shifted from being afraid to becoming agents of hope, not just for themselves, but for all those families whose voices were lost in the silence of intimidation. In the days that followed, Tom, Mary, Jake, and Sarah became pillars of the community, bringing everyone together to stand against greed and lies. Their courage sparked a fire that ignited action. They organized meetings, gathered testimonies, and everyone rallied for change, creating a tide that swept through Maplewood. The truth came to light, and the ties of corruption began to break. In the end, as Tom stood with Mary and Lily under the wide, blue sky, he felt the weight of love surrounding him more than fear ever could. "We did it," he whispered, his heart swelling. "Yes," Mary replied, her eyes glistening. "Together, we did." Their victory wasn't just in saving their community, but in the profound understanding they had built together. They had transformed fear into love, betrayal into trust. Tom smiled, a radiant expression. This was their family's legacy, a story of hope that would echo in the laughter of their daughter for generations to come. And in that moment, beneath the expansive sky and glowing sun, Tom knew they would always rise together, no matter how dark the journey got. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.